You know, it's crazy to think that just one studio in the 1980s could go from breakdancing on cardboard to ninjas throwing fire to arm wrestling philosophy to Chuck Norris saving the world to a chainsaw-fueled fever dream that felt like it was shot inside of a demented haunted funhouse. That studio was Cannon Films, and tonight Cannon goes big and very loud. Welcome to Friday Night Rentals, where we don't just watch movies, we rewind history and occasionally ask, how did this get approved and why do I love it so much? What's up out there, everybody? I'm Anthony DeJoya, and this is Friday Night Rentals, the series where we crack open the video store time capsule, grab the loudest box on the shelf, and hit play like it's 2 a.m. with a Mountain Dew and a microwave burrito that's still cold in the middle.
What are the odds on Lincoln Hawks?
20 to 1, pal. Real long shot.
This time we're diving into the glorious, chaotic, and absolutely unstoppable world of Cannon Films. And if you grew up wandering the video store aisles, you definitely remember that Cannon Films logo because it was the mark of a very specific promise. Will this movie be classy? Probably not. But will it be fun and memorable? Oh, absolutely. And to me, Cannon Films was one of the few studios that treated the 80s like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Action movies, horror, dance movies, weird genre mashups, and stars doing the most heroic thing imaginable, showing up and still committing even after reading the script. So grab your snacks and adjust the tracking, and let's get into this list. Here's a quick Cannon Films crash course for those in need. You could pretty much say that during the 1980s, Cannon Films was kind of like that friend who walked into the family 4th of July barbecue, past all the grandmas, the aunts, and the uncles, and then walked right up to you and whispered that he had a righteous haul of illegal fireworks in the trunk of his car while nodding and grinning at you like shit is about to get blown up either on purpose or by accident or both. Cannon Films wasn't trying to be subtle, they were trying to be creative and memorable and entertaining in as many genres as possible. Their real superpower was that they could turn any wild idea into a movie poster overnight, then somehow convince legit stars to appear in it. So as a studio, I think Cannon Films lived in that sweet spot between we absolutely shouldn't and we already did. They made movies that felt like they were pretty much designed to pop off the video shelf. Bold titles, big faces, bigger taglines with a level of confidence that could power a small city. And the best part? Even when the movies were absolutely messy, they were rarely boring. And to me, Cannon's 80s output is basically a time capsule of the era's most lovable cinematic chaos. Loud soundtracks, bigger-than-life heroes, and stories that go for it with the sincerity of a kid just playing with action figures on the living room carpet. So that's the vibe we're going to keep with this series. We're celebrating the fun Cannon Films, the wild Cannon Films, and the how did this get made, but I'm glad it did Cannon Films. So let's hit play on tonight's list. Rewatching Breakin these days kind of feels like opening a time capsule from 1980s Los Angeles. It's all neon glow and synth-driven momentum. It's definitely a little bit corny and the story is simplistic at best, but that's kind of part of why it works. The movie understands its assignment, spotlight the dancing, ride the music, and capture a very specific moment when breakdancing felt like it was going to take over the world. Now, I was a kid in LA right when this movie was released, living in a cul-de-sac where we'd breakdance in the street on a busted refrigerator box like we were auditioning for Club MTV, so sitting back now and watching Turbo glide around again just really hits that sweet spot of nostalgia. It also reminds you of how much of this movie's appeal is reliant on the physical performances. Michael Boogaloo Shrimp Chambers and Adolfo Shabadoo Quinones, I think, bring a real authenticity and charisma to their characters, and I think Lucinda Dickey gives the movie a real likable central character that really just keeps the movie from feeling like only being a dance showcase. Cannon also struck gold here. On roughly a $1.2 million budget, the movie earned around $38.7 million, making it a legit box office mini sensation for a dance flick that moved like a music video collage. It even beat out 16 Candles its opening weekend and helped kick off a wave so big Cannon would rush out a sequel just 7 months later, which is something you do not see very often. But despite the audience appeal, critics were lukewarm at best. In his review, Vincent Canby said it had a story intended to be functional, but that it still interrupted the dancing far too often. And while that may be somewhat true, Breakin still maneuvers at a brisk pace. It keeps the music and dance as the focus as much as possible, and the soundtrack is a big part of the impact too. The theme song, Breakin' There's No Stopping Us, actually did crack the Billboard Hot 100 Top 10, and yes, the Blink and You'll Miss It Jean-Claude Van Damme background cameo, I think still plays like a fun little VHS era Easter egg.
Come on, sucker, right now.
She was good.
I'm better.
So bottom line on Breakin', I think it's a fun relic and still a strong snapshot to the just 80s dance movie movement, and it still makes you want to push the coffee table aside to turn your living room into a dance floor, even if your old back and old joints quickly vote no. Alright, now we've had the boombox bliss and the cardboard dance floor glory. Now let's pivot into something tighter and much more intense, where the style gets darker, the stakes get sharper, and the dress code turns aggressively black. Next up, in 1983's Revenge of the Ninja, Sho Kosugi drops into peak Cannon mode as Cho Osaki, a family man just trying to go legit in America until the same ninjas who killed his family pull him back into the violence. The setup is simple and effective. A fresh start gets shattered and Cho is forced to become the thing he's trying to leave behind. So it's perfect action movie bones. To me, what makes this movie work is just its clarity of purpose. It's not trying to be complicated. It's built as a clean revenge narrative that does keep pushing Cho into escalating confrontations. The pacing is brisk, the tone is serious enough to give the action some weight, and the movie consistently finds ways to stage fights that still feel fun and inventive within Cannon's scrappy style. The Los Angeles but actual Salt Lake City backdrop is also part of the fun, I think, because it just kind of grounds the story in a recognizable setting, while the movie introduces a world where ninjas can appear at any moment launching fire and nobody seems too shocked. Now, it's certainly not elegant in a glossy, studio polished sort of way, but it's definitely energetic and memorable. The reported budget was just at $700,000, and it would earn roughly $13.2 million in the States, which is an impressive result for a hard-leaning genre picture like this. It was also another case of audiences being entertained and critics for the most part rolling their eyes. In his review with the New York Times, Lawrence Van Gelder called it a sadistic, bloody, foul-mouthed action movie, and I don't know about you, but I think that's a compliment in my book, even if it wasn't intended as such. In Revenge of the Ninja, Kosugi is quiet and unrestrained as the centerpiece. He has a controlled intensity and a physical precision about himself that I think absolutely sells the character as both a father and as a trained killer, and I think the action definitely benefits from just how clearly the film lets you see and read his movements of action. So in terms of pop culture, I think this is pure VHS era ninja mythology, and certainly one of the movies that helped lock the ninja boom into the 80s lexicon.
Are you trying to tell me there's ninjas running around there killing people in the 20th century?
This movie was also the second entry in Cannon's loose ninja run. Kosugi was far more popular and much more believable than Franco Nero and Enter the Ninja, and this one would cement Kosugi as one of the era's just signature big screen ninjas. Alright, now we've lived in the shadows long enough. Next up, we're gonna step into something bigger, much more brighter, and more openly crowd-pleasing, the kind of 80s spectacle that plays like a mainstream event movie, even if the premise sounds completely absurd on nearly every level. Next up is 1987's Over the Top, where Stallone's long-haul trucker Lincoln Hawk, great name by the way, tries to reconnect with his son while chasing a shot at legitimacy through the unexpectedly intense world of competitive arm wrestling. It's a father-son melodrama that keeps pivoting into a Vegas-style sports movie showcase, and it's about as 80s as an 80s movie can get. What makes Over the Top work is just how damn committed it is to its own heightened reality. The plot undeniably leans into soap opera territory, but the film frames up arm wrestling like a major league spectacle, giving it a pro wrestling vibe where every match feels like a grudge match and every opponent is introduced like a final boss. Some drank Gatorade, others drank motor oil, so the tone is big and ridiculous, but it is consistent, and that consistency is why it becomes so easily watchable. Financially, this was a big swing for Cannon Films. The budget is often listed at around $25 million, $12 million of which went to Stallone. It earned just $16 million domestically with an opening weekend of around $5.1 million, so it was not a box office winner, and critics collectively rolled their eyes as well. Janet Maslin in her review said it was one of Stallone's more muddled efforts and that the plot made literally no sense. But like many movies from this era, it found long afterlife as a cable and VHS staple, the kind of movie you would stumble into halfway through and end up finishing 7 or 8 out of 10 times. Stallone plays Hawk with a cheesy, grounded sincerity that somehow sells the emotional arc even when the story leans hard into melodrama, and as a kid, I'll admit, this was prime Stallone fantasy fuel. I wanted Stallone to be my pops, and I wanted Stallone to arm wrestle for me.
That's a fact that you can't change! Damn you! Damn you.
This movie overall just has that old school, keep going, keep fighting simplicity to it at its core that just hits perfectly on late night weekend cable, especially with Giorgio Moroder's glossy score and a soundtrack that does a ton of the heavy lifting for the mood in a movie that some would say goes best with a few shots of Valvoline. Now, you guys are definitely going to want to stick around. We've had big emotion so far, bigger spectacle, but with this next rental, the tone is shifting into something more serious with more higher stakes and video game level action spectacle. For this next one, we're leveling up to 1986's The Delta Force, directed by Menahem Golan, where a commercial airliner is hijacked and an elite rescue unit is deployed before the situation spirals into something truly ugly, starring Chuck Norris and Lee Marvin, who lead a stacked cast in a movie that just fuels itself on tension and suspense to deliver a pure, explosive action fantasy. As a kid, the Delta Force played kind of like a gritty G.I. Joe movie. If the gloves came off and the rating swapped from G to R, it's big, intense, and very Cannon Films in the sense that when they committed to the action, you felt it. The opening hijacking sequence is genuinely tense, and for a mainstream 80s action film, surprisingly dark, and I think that's a big reason why it sticks in the memory bank so easily. This movie also attached itself to my real life. This was the movie that would always pop into my head on summer trips with my grandma. Anytime we got on a plane, a little part of my brain went, okay, where is Chuck Norris sitting and which one of these dudes looks up to no good? Financially, it earned around $6 million its opening weekend. It would finish out with around $17.8 million in the States with a reported budget of around $9 million. So really, that box office performance kind of reads like a solid Cannon Films win, and it did have enough staying power to spawn some sequels and to remain a home video staple for years. Critics, on the other hand, dismissed it with a passion. Of course, in his review at the Times, Vincent Canby, known for his fancy wording, said it would be the 1986 film all others would have to beat for sheer, unashamed, hilariously vulgar vaingloriousness. And personally, I think he low-key liked it, but just had to inject an insult into his compliment to appease his cinephilic peers. Regardless, either way, the Norris-Marvin pairing is the key, and it's effective. I think they're great together. Norris is the direct, physical hero, but Marvin is the cement. He brings a grounded, authoritative presence that really does make the operation feel like grim work and not just action movie heroics.
1 minute to showtime.
All of the violence lands with plenty of impact. The movie keeps the tone serious enough that all the stakes feel real, and when the action kicks in, this movie just stomps its foot on the gas and delivers plenty of just good old-fashioned practical effects and stunt work. Okay, hope you guys are still with me. We've done high-stakes hero work and heavy artillery, but next, we're pivoting into something much more off-the-rails bonkers, where the tone gets way louder, much more chaotic, and a whole lot more bizarre. Close out episode 1, we're firing up the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 from 1986. Tobe Hooper was back in the director's chair with this one, with a cast led by Dennis Hopper. It follows a radio DJ who crosses paths with the Sawyer family's latest wave of madness, while a vengeance-driven lawman closes in, turning the whole thing into a collision of survival horror and aggressive, borderline cartoonish fury. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't watch this movie a ton growing up, but it always seemed to pop up around Halloween, and as a kid who thought peak horror was Nightmare on Elm Street, this one just felt unsettling in a different way. Not scary, but just chaotic and unnerving, like the movie was deliberately trying to keep you off balance. And rewatching it now, I really do appreciate how bold it is. Hooper didn't attempt to recreate the original's raw, grim dread. Instead, he pushed hard into black comedy and kind of a grotesque carnival nightmare tone, taking the franchise into something louder, messier, and much more extreme. Financially, it cost around $4.7 million. It grossed roughly $8 million domestically, so it wasn't a massive theatrical hit, and critics were mixed. Roger Ebert gave it 1 out of 4 stars, blasting the frenetic tone, pacing, and said that it lacked the terror of the original. And in his review with the New York Times, Walter Goodman said Hooper's direction was sloppy and that many of the scenes just ran too long. But its reputation grew the way a lot of cult films did, through repeat exposure, home media, and word-of-mouth exposure. It's gory, it's weirdly funny, and just completely committed to its own warped energy, which is exactly why it's become just such a cult favorite over time. I mean, even the marketing understood the tone with the one sheet that spoofed the Breakfast Club poster. And sure, this movie isn't for everyone, even me to be honest, but there is a nostalgic charm to be found in a movie that you really don't see replicas of anymore. Now, before you guys bounce out, if you guys do want more late night video store goodness, I definitely got you covered. You can check out my VHS vaults for some classic 90s cult staples. And if you're in the mood to keep the neon rolling from the 80s, you can dive into my cult classic episodes from my Friday night rental series for more how did these become comfort movie picks. As for this one though, that's a wrap on episode 1 of our Canon Classic series. We went big, we got loud, and just threw the whole night into a haunted funhouse blender. Be on the lookout for the next episode coming soon. We're going to roll deeper into the canon aisle with the same gritty VHS energy, but 5 new forms of cinematic chaos. Now I want to hear from you. What did you think of the lineup tonight? And if I missed your favorite Canon Films movie, drop it in the comments, because I'm absolutely building a new stack of rentals and your pick may just make the list. And if you enjoyed hanging out tonight, the best way to support the channel is pretty easy. It's the classic combo. Hit like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys really want to help keep the lights on in the video store, share this video with a friend who still knows what tracking means. Thank you guys so much for the support. Really means the world to me. Be on the lookout for the next video coming real soon. And until then, movies never say die.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?